You didn't suffer for nothing. This moment, this breakthrough is proof. Chosen one, you've endured storms that would have crushed lesser spirits. Life didn't just test you, it refined you. You've walked through shadows, stumbled in the dark, yet something in you refused to be extinguished. Each heartbreak, setback, betrayal, and silent cry wasn't wasted. It was sacred training ground for your soul. Like a blacksmith pounding raw metal into a blade, every trial shaped you. Stronger, wiser, sharper. What others saw as misfortune was actually divine molding. Studies in psychology show that post-traumatic growth is real. Many people who endure suffering develop deeper compassion, clarity of purpose, and spiritual depth. That's you. You're not the same person you were a year ago or even a month ago. You've been spiritually upgraded. Imagine a seed buried underground. It cracks, breaks apart, and must push through layers of dirt before it ever sees the sun. That breaking isn't failure, it's growth. And now, you finally emerge from the soil. You're stepping into your light, your breakthrough. There's an ancient principle echoed in every sacred text, from the Bible to Buddhist teachings. Suffering is often the prelude to spiritual awakening. Romans 8:18 says, "The pain that you've been feeling can't compare to the joy that is coming." This isn't poetic fluff, it's a spiritual law. God allows trials not to punish you, but to prepare you for what's already written in your destiny. You didn't just survive the test, you passed it with excellence, even when no one clapped for you, even when people doubted you, mistreated you, or abandoned you. And now, heaven is moving. You'll begin to notice divine alignments, unexpected favor, answered prayers, people coming into your life with the very resources you've been praying for. That's not coincidence, it's confirmation. Chosen ones often walk lonely roads, but they're never alone. Angels have walked beside you even when you couldn't see them, and now they're clearing your path. The philosopher Rumi once said, "The wound is the place where the light enters you." That light, wisdom, love, purpose is now radiating from your soul. It's why people sense something different about you, even if they can't explain it. You carry spiritual weight now. You've been entrusted with power, not the flashy kind, but quiet, unshakable power that changes atmospheres. So don't downplay your breakthrough, don't dismiss your growth, and don't return to what broke you. This moment is sacred. It's your spiritual graduation. The universe has taken notice, and so should you. So sit tight, chosen one. This isn't just another message. This is your divine confirmation. You didn't suffer in vain. You suffered into strength. Welcome to the other side. Let's awaken together. Point 1. You chose to keep your heart pure when you could have turned cold. You know what truly separates a spirit warrior from the rest of the world? It's not their strength in a fight, it's not their ability to drag someone on social media or expose every betrayal with a screenshot archive. Nah, that's surface level stuff, that's for the ego-driven. What sets a spirit warrior apart is far more powerful and far more rare. It's the audacity to stay clean in a world that's constantly trying to make you dirty. It's the ability to walk through hell, covered in ash and betrayal, and still come out with a heart that hasn't turned cold. Spirit warrior, that is your superpower. See, people don't realize your silence wasn't weakness. Your calm wasn't confusion. Your distance wasn't defeat. It was discipline. It was discernment. While they were playing checkers, you were out here playing spiritual chess. The betrayals you endured, the setups, the false accusations. You had every reason to snap, every excuse to retaliate, but instead you chose higher. Not because you're soft, but because your calling is too loud to be interrupted by drama. That right there was the test, and you didn't just pass, you graduated. Let's get scientific for a second, because this isn't just spiritual, it's psychological. Research in positive psychology shows that individuals who forgive and regulate their emotions consistently outperform others in mental resilience, problem solving, and overall well-being. Holding on to bitterness, that actually shortens your life, but transmuting pain into growth that rewires your brain, boosts your immunity, and literally adds years to your lifespan. What the world calls weak, heaven calls wise. Now don't get it twisted. It's not that you didn't feel the rage. Oh, you felt it. The heartbreak, the humiliation, the injustice. You cried in secret. You shook with anger behind closed doors. You had moments where revenge whispered sweet nothings in your ear, but you didn't feed the darkness. You fed your soul. You prayed. You journaled. You healed in silence. And while they thought they'd broken you, you were being rebuilt, quietly. privately, divinely. Here's the kicker. Your healing makes people uncomfortable. Your growth shines a light on everything fake about them. The same people who tried to destroy your name now watch from the sidelines, squinting at your glow. Why? Because when truth walks into a room, lies scatter like roaches under a flashlight. You didn't have to clear your name, your energy did that. You didn't have to expose them. Your elevation made the betrayal obvious, and this is where it gets poetic. The tables didn't just turn, they flipped. Now the gossipers are the ones being gossiped about. The saboteurs are watching you rise, unable to access what they once fumbled. And guess what? You don't even need revenge. Your joy is the karma. Your peace is the payback. Your glow up is the prophecy fulfilled. Spirit warrior, you didn't lose anything. You were released from everything not worthy of your destiny. You weren't rejected, you were redirected. And every time you chose not to retaliate, you planted seeds of favor. Seeds that are blooming now in public for all to see. God doesn't reward bitterness, He rewards integrity. And your reward, it's not just coming, it's already in motion. You feel it. The way doors are opening, the way peace wraps around you like armor, the way your soul feels lighter, freer. That's not coincidence, that's confirmation. And let's address the real flex, staying soft in a world that thrives on hardness. That's divine rebellion. That's what makes you a spirit warrior. You held on to your compassion when cruelty would have been easier. You kept your faith when cynicism whispered in your ear. You chose purpose over pettiness, and now you're spiritually untouchable. They can't trigger you because you've outgrown the need to react. You're not playing on their level anymore. You're building empires while they're stuck in ego battles. Let them talk. Let them twist the story. Your fruit speaks louder than their fiction. You didn't just survive, you evolved. You became proof that purity is power, that grace is greater, that light wins. So walk tall, spirit warrior, not with pride, but with honor. You earned that glow, you earned that peace, you earned that freedom. This wasn't luck, this was obedience, this was resilience, this was soul over ego. And now you shine not in spite of the storm, but because of it. Let them wonder how you did it. Let them wrestle with their guilt in silence, because spirit warrior, your presence is the proof. You passed the ultimate test without saying a word. And that, my friend, is how legends are made. Point 2, you surrendered instead of controlling. Oh, spirit warrior, let's talk about that moment, that holy moment. When you were surrounded by chaos, when life was unraveling thread by thread, and instead of scrambling to glue it all back together, you let go. Not out of defeat, but out of divine trust. You whispered that powerful line, well, God, if it's not for me, take it. And in that sacred release, you passed one of the hardest spiritual tests, surrender. See, surrender isn't giving up, it's leveling up. In a world that worships hustle and grind, surrender feels counterintuitive. But spiritually, it's a power move. According to studies in positive psychology, people who surrender outcomes to a higher power often experience lower anxiety, better decision-making, and greater life satisfaction. That's because when we stop trying to micromanage the universe, we create space for miracles. You didn't beg, you didn't chase, you aligned. And suddenly things started shifting. Because when the student stops struggling, the teacher appears. When you stop forcing closed doors to open, you notice the gates God already unlocked for you. That's not weakness, spirit warrior, that's wisdom. The world might tell you to make it happen, but heaven's strategy is different. Align, release, and receive. And here's where it gets powerful. You stopped chasing and started attracting. You moved from control to co-creation. That subtle shift from striving to surrender unlocked the flow state, something psychologists call being in the zone. It's when your thoughts, actions, and purpose move in harmony. Your frequency changed. You no longer begged for love, opportunities, or validation. They started finding you because your energy stopped screaming desperation and started humming divinity. God doesn't bless who you pretend to be. He blesses who you become in the fire. And you, spirit warrior, stood in the fire and said, refine me. That's why heaven said, now they're ready. Not when you had it all together, but when you trusted even while falling apart. That's the mark of someone chosen, someone who walks by faith, not sight. It's ironic, isn't it? The moment you released control was the exact moment you stepped into your true power. While others were still fighting battles not meant for them, you stood back, hands open, soul surrendered. And in that stillness, you became magnetic. That's not some fluffy woo-woo line, that's spiritual law. According to the law of vibration, everything is energy and we attract what we align with. By surrendering, you raised your vibration to match the frequency of your destiny. And don't be surprised if people start saying you changed. You did. You evolved. You stopped operating from fear and started living in flow. You're not here to force timelines, manipulate outcomes, or beg for crumbs. You're here to receive divine abundance in divine timing. You're no longer chasing people or proving your worth. You know your worth, and that silent knowing is louder than any shout. Spirit warrior, the surrender wasn't your breakdown, it was your breakthrough. It wasn't weakness, it was wisdom in action. So if you're ever tempted to pick up the pieces again and tape them into something God already told you to release, remember that moment, the moment you let go, the moment heaven leaned in and whispered, now they're ready. Point 3, you chose growth over comfort. You were given options: stay comfortable, stay average, stay hidden, or evolve through discomfort. And you, spirit warrior, you chose the path few dare to walk, the one without applause, the one lined with tests. You embraced the shadows of your becoming. While the world around you was numbing itself with distractions, you sat in your silence, in your stretching, in the sacred ache of self-transformation. And that's where everything shifted, not instantly, but undeniably. Growth is never graceful at the start. It looks like confusion, isolation, and long nights when you wonder if any of it is even worth it. That's where most people tap out. The second life stops handing them ease and they run back to comfort. But not you. You leaned in. You didn't just survive those awkward chapters, you studied in them. You let pain tutor your purpose. You took your spiritual bruises and turned them into strength. You didn't avoid the fire, you walked through it and let it burn away every version of you that wasn't real. That's divine resilience. Scientifically, your brain was rewiring the whole time. Neuroplasticity shows us that discomfort is the birthplace of new pathways. Every time you faced fear and pushed through anyway, you were reprogramming your response to challenges. You weren't just changing habits, you were expanding your capacity. Your mental, emotional, and spiritual bandwidth grew with every decision to stay committed. You made room, and in spiritual law, what you make room for must arrive. That's why your breakthrough is so massive. Because energetically, you matched it. You didn't beg for blessings, you became someone who could hold them. Your silence trained your ears to hear your intuition louder than the noise. Your loneliness taught you discernment, who's real and who's here just for the glow. Your stillness became your strategy. You weren't stagnant, you were charging up, and now the storm you thought was sent to destroy you is the very thing that forged your next level. You didn't grow by accident, you outgrew what was beneath your destiny, and that's why elevation is finding you now. And while others look at your rise and only see results, they'll never understand what it cost. The parts of you that had to die, the fake layers you had to peel off, the nights you cried in silence and the mornings you rose in faith. This wasn't luck, this was alignment. Divine favor honors those who prepare themselves in secret. See, Spirit Warrior, life didn't test you to break you. It tested you to build you. The pressure wasn't punishment, it was preparation. You were never meant to stay safe and small. You were built to stretch, to shift, to shake dimensions. You were chosen not just to survive, but to lead by example. And now your breakthrough isn't just about you, it's confirmation to every soul watching in silence, wondering if they should keep going. Your life screams, yes, you made room for this moment, and now it's here. Walk in it boldly, you earned it. Point 4, you stayed obedient when it didn't make sense. Let's be real, Spirit Warrior. Obedience doesn't always make sense to the crowd. In fact, sometimes it looks downright irrational. They call you reckless, naive, delusional even. Why would you leave that relationship, that job, that comfort zone? To them it was security. To you it was a spiritual trap. What they don't see, what they can't see, is that your steps aren't dictated by logic or worldly approval. Your movements are divine. You walked away not because it made sense, but because your soul was called elsewhere. That's not madness, that's mission. Obedience is heaven's love language, and not just the big, flashy kind that earns applause. We're talking about quiet, unseen obedience. The kind where you delete the text you wanted to send. The kind where you choose peace over pettiness. The kind where you say yes to God while your heart is still bleeding. The kind where you show up when nothing makes sense and everything in you wants to run. You've done that kind of obedience. That's why you feel the shift now. Let's take it deeper. Obedience isn't just spiritual, it's neurological. When you choose obedience, especially in moments of uncertainty, you're actually strengthening your brain's prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for decision-making, trust, and long-term thinking. Obedience rewires your neural pathways toward resilience, patience, and faith. You're literally reshaping your inner world while aligning with a higher one. That's science meeting spirit. The world calls it foolish. But the truth is, most people aren't brave enough to walk by faith. They want proof. They want blueprints. They want guarantees. You obeyed a whisper. You left without closure. You built with no audience. You stood when it would have been easier to settle. That's divine discipline, and it doesn't go unnoticed. In Scripture, look at Noah. He built a massive ark in the middle of dry land with no storm in sight. People laughed, mocked, thought he'd lost it. But when the rain came, his obedience became his salvation. That's you, spirit warrior. You've been building in silence, trusting in private, obeying in pain, and now you're standing at the gates of abundance, not because you chased it, but because obedience drew it to you. Heaven doesn't measure success by status, but by surrender. And every time you said yes to divine instruction, especially when it cost you comfort, you proved your loyalty. Obedience is an act of radical trust. It says, I believe the Creator sees what I can't, and that's enough for me to move. That level of faith rearranges the heavens. It activates favor, opens doors no man can shut, and triggers the kind of breakthrough that doesn't make sense until it does. You see, spirit warrior, obedience isn't passive. It's active spiritual warfare. Every time you obey, you're resisting fear, doubt, and the pull of the familiar. You're declaring that God's plan is greater than people's opinions. That's why the rewards are coming in waves now. Because you didn't just want the promise, you were willing to walk the path, no matter how rough. So if they ever ask why you left, why you stayed, why you said no, why you disappeared, tell them you were answering to something higher. You weren't being random, you were being obedient. And now, as the blessings unfold, as the peace settles in, as the fruit starts to show, they'll realize you weren't crazy, you were called. Keep walking, spirit warrior. The gates are open. Your obedience made heaven take notice, and what's coming next will make everyone else take notice too. Point 5. You protected your energy like a sacred temple. Chosen ones, spirit warriors, gather close. Because what have you done lately? It's no small thing, it's sacred. There comes a moment in every spirit warrior's journey when the noise just doesn't pull you in anymore. That chaos, that arguing, that back and forth with people determined to misunderstand you, it used to rile you up. It used to steal your sleep, your focus, and your spiritual energy. But now, you've outgrown it. You've walked away, not out of weakness, not out of defeat, but because you finally saw the truth. Some battles are designed to distract, not develop you. This shift, this internal decision to stop entertaining the circus isn't just emotional maturity, it's spiritual evolution. It means you've reached a level where peace is more valuable to you than proving a point. You're no longer triggered by petty energy or baited by the toxic need to always be right. You've stopped casting your pearls before swine. And that, spirit warrior, is power cloaked in silence. Psychologically, this transformation reflects a key principle in emotional intelligence: response over reaction. Studies show that individuals who master delayed response and emotional regulation are not just calmer, they're more successful, more creative, and live longer. You're literally aligning your nervous system to peace, training your brain to release less cortisol and more serotonin. That's science backing your spiritual practice. When you stop feeding the drama, your body stops treating life like a war zone. But here's the spiritual layer. You didn't just walk away from drama, you reclaimed your spirit. You stopped handing out VIP access to people who never honored your soul. You stopped pouring light into hands that only knew how to throw shadows. And so you built boundaries, not walls made of bricks and bitterness, but gates crafted from discernment, experience, and divine wisdom. You don't keep people out of fear. You filter them through truth. And those boundaries, they did something miraculous. They didn't just keep chaos out, they kept you in. They anchored your spirit in a higher frequency, a sacred vibration where confusion can't breathe and gossip gets tired. Every time you say no to a toxic invite, you're saying yes to your destiny. Every time you protect your peace, you position yourself for a breakthrough that drama was designed to delay. Energetically, the universe operates on frequency. Low vibrational situations, gossip, jealousy, manipulation, exist at a density that repels miracles. But when you removed yourself from that fog, your aura cleared, your spirit glowed. You became a lightning rod for divine timing. That's why doors started opening. That's why breakthroughs began to unfold, because clarity attracts blessings. And boundaries create the space for them to land. It's no wonder people talk. It's no surprise they throw shade, because peace, true, deep, grounded peace, it triggers the insecure. Your silence makes their chaos echo louder. Your stillness exposes their restlessness, and that's okay. You weren't chosen to fit in, you were chosen to stand out. So spirit warrior, keep your boundaries firm and your spirit open. Keep walking away from what doesn't align. Keep saying no, not out of spite, but out of sacred preservation. The less you entertain the foolery, the more clearly you hear divine instruction. The less you react, the more power you retain. This isn't just a mindset shift, it's a spiritual upgrade. And trust this, while they're busy trying to pull you back into the chaos, the universe is preparing to launch you into divine clarity, divine peace, and divine purpose. You didn't lose anything by walking away. You gained yourself. Let them talk, let them wonder, let them spin stories in circles. Meanwhile, you're building a legacy in silence, because when fools argue, spirit warriors ascend. Point 6, you gave without expecting anything back. Spirit warrior, do you know how powerful you truly are? Even when you had almost nothing, when your own cup was barely full, you still found a way to pour into others. Time, love, patience, presence, prayer. You gave without expecting applause. While the world teaches us to only give when it's convenient, you were giving when it cost you something. That kind of giving, that's sacred. That's what heaven watches closely. Because what you did wasn't just kindness, it was divine strategy. While others were hoarding, scheming, or waiting for something in return, you were planting seeds in the soil of eternity. And guess what? The soil remembers. You were never wasting your energy, you were watering futures, some of which weren't even yours. And now, spirit warrior, you're stepping into the season of divine reciprocity. This isn't karma. Karma is about cause and effect. Reciprocity? That's spiritual accounting. It's the universal law that what you send out with pure intent must circle back in greater measure. When you gave love to the unloving, time to the ungrateful, or grace to the undeserving, heaven made note. Not one tear, not one prayer, not one silent sacrifice went unnoticed. Now the balance is shifting. People are going to start blessing you out of nowhere, not because of coincidence, but because divine timing is right on schedule. Unexpected doors will begin to fly open, not by luck, but by alignment. You'll find yourself receiving support from people you never imagined. Some will offer you opportunities, others will show up just when you need them most. You might even hear from someone who once overlooked you, now realizing they were blind to your light. That's not ego, it's justice, not human justice, but spiritual. And when spirit moves, no man can block it. Even systems, rules, or closed circles won't be able to hold you back. Why? Because favor outranks force every time. Science even backs this up in ways we often overlook. Studies in quantum physics suggest that intention carries energy. Every thought, every action, every word, you were sending out frequencies of love and sacrifice. Over time, those frequencies attract energy that mirrors their vibration. It's not just spiritual, it's scientific. You've been in resonance with higher purpose, and now the universe must respond. That's not wishful thinking, it's energetic law. So don't be surprised when strangers show generosity. Don't question why blessings seem to just happen. This isn't random. This is a return, a spiritual yield. And you earned it not by playing loud, but by staying loyal. Loyal to your heart, to your mission, to your calling, even when it was quiet, even when it was thankless. Spirit warrior, you're about to see why the wait was so long, why the pain was so deep, why the giving felt so heavy. You weren't being overlooked, you were being overprepared. Your roots had to grow deep before the fruit could grow high. Now the fruit is showing, and the harvest, it's wild, abundant, and overflowing. Keep walking in grace, keep expecting the miraculous. And when people start asking, how did this happen? Just smile, because you'll know you planted, you prayed, you persevered. This is divine reciprocity. Point 7, you chose faith over fear every single time. Faith isn't loud, it doesn't shout from the rooftops, it doesn't post updates for applause, and it doesn't need likes or comments to be valid. Faith is that quiet warrior within you whispering, keep going, when logic tells you to quit. It shows up when your heart is heavy, your path is dark, and your strength is low, but you still decide to take one more step. That's the real battlefield. And spirit warrior, if you're watching this, you've already won more battles than most people even know exist. You didn't need a crowd. You didn't wait for proof. You said, I don't know how, but I believe. And that belief, that was spiritual currency. That was the invisible exchange rate of heaven. Science calls it quantum intention. Psychology calls it resilience. But in the spirit warrior realm, we call it faith. Faith is the frequency that bends reality. Faith is when your soul writes checks your circumstances can't cash yet, but the universe honors them anyway. You kept walking even when the road was broken, when people laughed and when plans failed. You stood tall in the rain without an umbrella, trusting that the storm wasn't punishment, it was preparation. And guess what? That's why the miracle is showing up now. You see, the universe doesn't respond to desperation, it responds to unwavering expectation. You didn't plead, you trusted, you didn't chase signs, you became the sign. And the truth is, that kind of faith is rare, it's raw, it's radical. In a world obsessed with logic and control, your willingness to release control was the most powerful move you could make. You surrendered the how and focused on the who, knowing that what is meant for you is already spiritually scheduled. Your faith didn't make sense to anyone else, and that's exactly why it worked. Studies have shown that belief alone can activate healing mechanisms in the body. It's called the placebo effect, but it's much more than that. It's a glimpse into how belief creates reality. When you believe you're supported, your brain rewires itself for hope. When you expect miracles, your nervous system calms. Faith isn't just spiritual, it's scientific, and you, spirit warrior, have been walking in that truth without needing proof. And now look, doors are opening. Unexpected blessings are arriving. Peace is replacing panic. You didn't earn this by force. You manifested it by faith. All those tears you cried in secret, they were prayers in disguise. All the nights you stayed up saying, I don't get it, but I trust you. That was the down payment, and now the breakthrough is being delivered, not because you shouted the loudest, but because you believed the deepest. Let the world think it happened suddenly. They don't know how many silent battles you fought. They didn't see the mornings you got up with trembling hands and declared, I still believe. They don't know that you planted seeds in soil no one believed would grow, but the roots were deep, spirit warrior, and now it's harvest time, so stand tall, breathe, receive. This miracle didn't come because you begged, it came because you believed. And your faith, that was always the currency. Not money, not power, not titles, just unwavering, quiet, relentless faith. You didn't need anyone to hype you up. You didn't need proof to start moving. You trusted when it made no sense. You walked in the dark. You spoke light into chaos. You were obedient, even when you were overlooked. And now the divine is showing up for you, not because you're lucky, but because you're faithful. This is your moment. This is the reward for the battle you fought in silence, the blessing you believed in before it was visible. Spirit warrior, your faith cashed in the miracle, and now it's yours. Spirit warrior, this breakthrough isn't a coincidence. It's divine timing in motion. It's not luck or chance. It's the manifestation of a long, hidden process that few saw, but heaven never missed. Every tear you cried, every whispered prayer when no one else was listening, every restless night you endured with a weary heart, none of it was wasted. Science may try to explain resilience through psychology and mental endurance, but what you've just experienced goes beyond mere biology. It's spiritual. In biblical terms, it's the refining fire of trials described in 1 Peter 1:7, where your faith, much more precious than gold, is tested and proved genuine. And now, heaven has spoken. Well done. You didn't just survive the storm, you passed the test. Trials, spiritually speaking, are God's way of sharpening his warriors. Think of Joseph in the Bible, sold into slavery, falsely imprisoned and forgotten. But in the right moment, when the test was complete, he was elevated to power and purpose. That's not just a story, that's a divine pattern. Your test may not have involved prison walls, but it may have felt just as confining. Emotional battles, betrayals, financial droughts, or seasons of isolation were all training grounds for this moment. And now it's your turn to walk in your calling, not with arrogance, but with holy authority. You are a chosen vessel, humble enough to remember the pit you came from, yet powerful enough to speak life into others. You don't need to shout to be heard. Your spirit speaks volumes. You may still be hidden in some circles, but in God's timing, honor always follows obedience. This is your season, your divine moment of overflow. Overflow in peace, clarity, resources, purpose, and connection. But don't let your guard down. Stay spiritually awake. Stay anchored in truth. Just because the breakthrough has come doesn't mean the battle is over. Ephesians 6 reminds us to put on the full armor of God. The same spiritual vigilance that got you here will keep you here. You didn't come this far just to stop now. The mission continues, but now you walk with a fresh anointing and renewed strength. Your breakthrough is not just for you. It's a signal to others that theirs is near. This is the time to encourage your fellow spirit warriors. Share this message with someone who needs to hear it. Let them know they're not forgotten and their breakthrough is loading. When one of us rises, it signals the atmosphere is shifting for many. And if this message stirred something deep within your soul, it wasn't by accident, it's confirmation. So drop a comment saying, "I've passed the test." Declare it, claim it, believe it, because your endurance has birthed elevation. Until next time, stay spiritually locked in, warrior. The Most High isn't finished with you yet. This is only the beginning.